Sunchokes are like the foie gras of the vegetable kingdom. One bite and I'm instantly transported to a Michelin-starred restaurant. They have that unmistakable flavor that's slightly sweet and nutty, sort of like chestnuts, but better. They aren't much to look at, that's why you often see them pureed, but add them to any dish and boom, it tastes elegant and complex. Today we'll turn them into a really spectacular salad with Swiss chard, but they make a perfect accompaniment to any fish or poultry. In the words of one and only Adam Ragusia, what the f*** are sunchokes? Sunchokes also go under the name of Jerusalem artichokes. They grow underground and are related to sunflowers. It's a Native American plant that for some reason tasted like artichokes to the French explorer Samuel de Champlain, and thus the name. I am not sure if Samuel realized that naming a vegetable after an artichoke can stigmatize it for life. That's like naming your kid Adolf or Osama. Artichokes are prickly. They discolor instantly. 90% of what you buy is inedible. Seriously, they are a nightmare to work with. But sunchokes are nothing like that. They're really like a bumpy potato, and you really don't need any special skills to cook them. By the way, the name sunchokes was given to them by a specialty produce wholesaler, Frida Kaplan, in the 1960s in an effort to rebrand them, but I'm not sure how successful that effort was with home cooks. I chose the most difficult sunchoke for this demo that looks like ginger. The only challenge of dealing with sunchokes are all these bumps, but I'll show you what to do with them. First, let's trim this dried up end and discard. If the bumps are big, cut them off and separate them so that you can clean out the dirt between them. But don't throw them away, they're perfectly usable. If they're small, just hack them off. These little bumps often have dirt embedded in them, and it's best to get rid of them before washing your sunchokes. Trim the other end and you're done. These parts and these parts are usable, but these are not. If you're good with a paring knife, you can do all this in your sink. But if you worry about cutting yourself, do it on a cutting board. No need to peel your sunchokes. Just give them a good scrub and dry them off. Sunchokes don't discolor, so you can clean them and dry them a day ahead and store in an airtight container in the fridge. Since we're on the topic of washing, let's wash the chard that we'll need for our dish. Discard any rotting leaves and submerge all the good leaves in water. You can do it in a perfectly clean and sanitized sink or a big bowl. Cut out the big stems with a paring knife. If the stem is so curvy that you can't get inside it to wash out the sand, cut it in half and give it a good wash. Wrap all the stems in a paper towel. Dry the leaves off in a salad spinner, but make sure you're working in small batches and don't forget to empty the water out of the salad spinner after each batch. Wrap up all the leaves in a paper towel and store the stems and the leaves in a large plastic box in the fridge until you're ready to use them. They can easily last for 5 to 7 days this way. I prefer to clean all my leafy greens as soon as I bring them home. Not only does it make them ready to cook, it helps them last longer. Now that everything is clean, we are ready to cook. Preheat the oven to 425 degrees with the rack in the bottom third. If the chard stems are really wide, cut them in half lengthwise and then slice crosswise. Move your chard stems to a baking sheet and let's move on to sunchokes. Cut your sunchokes in half lengthwise. If they're really long, cut them crosswise a few times. If they're really little, leave them whole. Move your sunchokes to the baking sheet, but keep the chard and the sunchokes separately. This way, if one is done and the other one is not, you can easily remove it. Sprinkle everything with salt and a little black pepper. Drizzle generously with olive oil, about a quarter cup for the whole baking sheet, and mix with your hands to distribute the salt and the oil evenly. Many people like to do it in a bowl, and then pour the salted and oiled veggies onto the baking sheet. That's a great way to do it, but I like to dirty as few dishes as possible. Flip all the sunchokes flat side down. This way you'll get way more delicious browning on them. Place the baking sheet in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes or until the sunchokes are tender. While they're cooking, let's make the chard salad. Roll up a manageable bunch of leaves into a tight bundle and slice. Then chop the other way. Then repeat until you work through all the leaves. To make the dressing, juice a lemon to get about 1 tablespoon. Add a teaspoon of Dijon mustard and some salt. Whisk very thoroughly. If you have any pomegranate molasses, add a teaspoon of that. It goes so well with leafy greens. If not, you can use half a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. Then slowly pour in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, whisking constantly. It doesn't need to be a steady stream. You can add a couple of teaspoons and whisk until they get absorbed. Then add some more. Unlike lettuce, Swiss chard tastes best if you let it sit with the dressing for at least 30 minutes. It can even sit in the fridge overnight. It will discolor slightly if you keep it overnight, but will taste absolutely delicious. I only started making Swiss chard salads recently. Until I had it in a restaurant, the idea didn't occur to me. But now I am hooked. I mean, if people use kale in a salad, why not chard? It's juicier and more tender than kale and has a very pleasant natural tang to it. Taste and correct for salt. There is no guarantee that the amount that I put into the dressing is right until I taste it all together. Let's check up on our roasting veggies. The sunchokes are completely tender, but I'm not too happy with their color. If you're in this situation, crank up the oven to 500 degrees, turn on the convection fan if you have it, and cook until they brown. This might happen very quickly, so check every couple of minutes. It took me 5 minutes to get them to this happy caramelized stage. Get the charred stems out and about 1/3 of the sunchokes. We'll add them to our salad once they cool a bit. Cool the rest of the sunchokes for a few minutes and add them to some pureeing machine with half a cup of heavy cream and half a cup of water, or whatever amount you'll need to have them not quite covered. Add a drizzle of pomegranate molasses or lemon juice, but go easy here. We don't want to make them too sour. I'm only using half a teaspoon or so. The best machine for this job is a high-speed blender like Vitamix. If that's not an option, you can always use a regular blender or a food processor or an immersion blender. The key here is to puree for a very long time, about 3 minutes in a Vitamix or 6 minutes in other machines. There should be absolutely no specks of skin visible. If your machine is not powerful enough for that, pass the puree through a fine mesh sieve after you're done. I mean, you don't have to, you can certainly serve a coarser puree, but I personally like it very silky. You can adjust the consistency with more water and cream. Here's the texture I like, but you can make it thicker or thinner to your liking. Don't forget to taste and adjust for salt. If you aren't sure, play with a small batch. What's so great about this dish is that everything can be made ahead and rewarmed in a microwave or on low heat in a pan. If you have sunchoke puree leftovers, they can sit in the fridge for up to 5 days and will go with almost any savory dish. Add the sunchokes and the chard stems to your salad, sprinkle with salted sunflower seeds and give it all a toss. Pile on top of the sunchoke puree and enjoy! To me, this is the ultimate fall salad. It's hearty and comforting, but also bright and crisp. I know that this is a challenging dish. Not because it's hard to make, but because it's unfamiliar. Using chard in a salad is weird. Sunchokes are weird. Pulling out a blender just to make a salad is weird. But there are a lot of ideas here that you can borrow and make your own. If you can't find sunchokes, try the same idea with beets, carrots, celery root, parsnips, or any root vegetable. If you don't have a good blender or want to simplify this dish, replace the sunchoke puree with any creamy ingredient. Hummus, buffalo mozzarella, goat cheese, blue cheese, etc. If you want to make this dish vegan, use cashew milk instead of water and cream. If you want the easiest way to try sunchokes, just roast them and serve. The possibilities are endless here, my friends, so don't be afraid to play with your food. Here are more very detailed culinary tutorials for you to check out, and if you are ever in the Boston area, maybe I'll see you in one of my classes.